Good evening. You're listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob. I am joined by the Authenticator, Dalton, Professor Pixel, and RDV versus Ash versus the Evil Dead. We are broadcasting here from the Pine Hills Palace just west of Orlando, Florida. And again, Xtreme TV, one of our channels that we have from the Xtreme Movie Show. We are going to be covering Ash versus the Evil Dead Season 1, Episodes 1 and 2. Of course, Ash versus...
I just want to correct you. There is no the. It's Ash versus Evil Dead in the show.
You know, the sounds great, but the sounds even better, sir. So we like to elaborate. Since
well, no, I'm saying the word is not existing. It's Ash versus Evil Dead is the name of the show.
You know, and in the movies, it was Shop Smart, Shop S-Mart, not Value Shop, but due to litigation, that's what it is. So you can sit there with your new name, sir, and suck it. Because, yeah, we're talking about Season 1, Episode 1 and 2. And, guys, we're going to go around the horn here. I got to sit there and say this from my initial thoughts. When I heard that Ash vs. Evil Dead that was going to have Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi involved was going to do, I believe on Starz is where it came out a few years ago, 3, 4, 5 years ago. I was stoked because I liked the movies. I thought Bruce Campbell was somebody that obviously became bigger, but I'd known him since the early 80s at least. And growing up watching him, I've always known who he was. He was great in Michael Weston's spy show, Burn Notice. So the fact that they did this, I was really hoping it would be good. And you know what? I was wrong. It was great. It was fantastic. This show, to me, and again, we're only covering episodes 1 and 2, and I'm going to talk about how great they are. They really, to me, exemplify what it means to take source material and branch off in certain directions and just hit a home run with it. And I think it's very hard for people to do that. But overall, music is fantastic. Can't wait to talk about that. It's a comedy, not a horror to me. I've always said that. There's no such thing as comedy horror because the horror means you're supposed to be scared, and you don't get scared here. But Sam Raimi's involved. Bruce Campbell's involved. A lot of people that have worked with Sam are involved in this as well. It's fantastic. Absolutely love this. So we'll go around the horn here looking at my screen. Dalton, I'll start with you. What did you think of these first 2 episodes of Ash versus the Evil Dead? Excuse me, Ash versus Evil Dead.
That's right. Get it right.
Dalton, are we there?
Might have overheated.
Yeah, he blanked out there a little bit. Okay, Dalton, you're still showing the channel. You pop back in, let us know. Pixel, what about you?
About these first 2 episodes, or just the first episode?
Just overall, your initial thoughts. Well, you can do the whole franchise, but yeah, we're talking about these 2.
The entire franchise right now. Last year I watched all 3 Evil Dead movies, and I really loved it towards the end, and I was anxious to start the show, but I never did. So this gave me the perfect reason to, and it was phenomenal. It was just such it felt right in the same vein, like a direct continuation. He is the most lovable loser you'll ever meet.
Yeah, I agree with you on that totally there too. RDV, or whatever we're calling you tonight, Mr. Value Shop, Mr. Shop Boy. Yeah, Shop Boy sounds good. What do you think?
I thought it was great. Considering what all the cancel culture, this only came out in like 2016, I believe, is when these first 2 episodes.
Yeah, I think it was in the fall. Mm-hmm.
And it was on Starz, and I gotta say, I was shocked that they actually did it so well because a lot, like I said, with all the cancel culture and all this crap around here, we got to censor everything. We can't do this. This is like, you know what? Hold my beer. I'm going to piss off every single person in the world. Is it like South Park? Yeah, nothing. Who cares about South Park? This is your manly show. This is yeah. Forget the man show. This is the man show. This is Ash versus Evil Dead. This is Ash at his best. Like I said, like the very first episode, like when. He's like, man, I just saw something I haven't seen or experienced something I haven't experienced like the past 30 years. Like in the Deadite, but this, like I said, this is if you're a fan of the comics, fan of the actual movies, you'll enjoy this. And if you don't enjoy this, then you got screw loose. You must be a Deadite. You must hate Ash.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about whenever I think you're relaunching something, because you can say, hey, we got a new generation of possible young fans that might be interested in the source material of any kind. So we're going to put younger, hipper people into it. We'll try to keep them the same, or maybe we'll put a contemporary spin on it. And I get it. And I understand the need to recycle tons of old things to, what was old is now new again, sort of thing. What makes it very interesting, I think, here is that, Bruce Campbell, I think he's in his mid to late 50s, maybe early 60s. He's a handsome guy, always has been, a good looking man. I think the character he had, even though it was more of a cult classic and people have gotten to know Bruce over the years, somewhat more mainstream, I'd say, in the latter half of his career. I think that whenever you get a chance to see something like this, like I say, there's a lot of pressure because you're the actor, you're bigger and better than you were when you first started out, and it was a no name, nothing type movie. And then you get Sam Raimi, who went on to do great things as well. So you had two guys that both early on in their beginnings made a little something that was a cult following, caught some magic. They made a few sequel movies, which were just fun, which I think is the key word here. And it's got Sam Raimi's style over it. And of course, anybody that knows Sam Raimi and his films recognize he has a certain particular style, the way he has his effects look and everything too. He's got a little bit of I want to say it's a New Zealand type over the top thing that reminds me of some other older New Zealand movies, which eventually we'll talk about on a Two Extreme Horror Show. That being said, this scene opens up where Ash is older. And so instead of trying to do a lot of exposition and just try to get you caught up, you can be brand new to this character, to the show, to the style. If you're 15 years old and you just stumble across it one day, and you would understand everything that's going on. And then there's a part of you that would go, hey, wait a minute. There's movies based off of this stuff. I can go back and watch them, but they're not necessary. And I think that is so incredible because it's just 30 years later, approximately, and you get everything about his character shown to you, not necessarily told. And that's what's incredible. And then, of course, having seen the series, I would simply say the two sidekicks that he has where they form the Three Stooges, as I like to fondly think of them, they're fantastic, and they get introduced to you early on. So the first few episodes are more about Pablo and Kelly rather than Ash. That's great. That's just teasing you with a little bit of Ash. So what they do is they show you him trying to go out and get some sex, at the bar. But here's the thing. What hooked me about this wasn't just the great aesthetics to it and watching it and the acting and the over-the-top silliness. It's the friggin' music. I am a huge Deep Purple fan. There used to be this old joke, who's the best band in the world? And is it AC/DC or is it Led Zeppelin? And then the answer, of course, is Deep Purple.
Yeah,
exactly. So when they've got space trucking going on, he's screwing the chick in the bathroom, and it turns out to be a deadite. So it's not gratuitous in that sense.
Well,
but they're showing it to you, and she turns into a deadite, and you start seeing what's going on. And it's a great opening hook. It's done perfectly.
I was gonna say I love it because he's sitting there, he's just basically having sex with her and thing, so she turns her head around and she's like, it's like as a deadite, and then it goes back to being normal. She's like, why'd you stop? And he's like, oh, nothing. I like, I just felt something I haven't experienced in the past 30 years. He's like, well, it's like. She's like, oh, so closely. Like, well, I guess we got a few minutes left. And he continues it.
He's got to finish that.
This whole show, like I said, the music. This is what really hooked me into was the music. Because this, I love Supernatural has music, the same classic rock songs. This show has the same thing as well. They bring in music, which I did answer with the fans because, when this came out, it was 1981 was the first Evil Dead. The second one came out when I believe was it 84 or 88? What was it?
84, 86, 88, something like that.
So, yeah. And you're getting the throwback music from there. Because I guarantee every song you hear on this show is what is probably Ash has on cassette.
Oh yeah.
And he's always blasting in his car. His sweet 88 Delta.
Well, the title's El Jefe because Pablo's father was a shaman and calls him that, and we'll see whether or not that's just kind of goofy stuff. You can tell he's kind of looking up to Ash as a role model, which is ironic in itself if you know the character. But then you get Kelly, who's a beautiful woman. Pablo and Kelly work in not S-Smart, which is a play off of Kmart, but of course it's Value Mart or whatever the hell that.
Yeah, they lost the rate for that, but they got everything else back just for the. So. I'm not sure if they lost the rights because they got rights to the first movie and they got they own everything else. I'm thinking maybe they just change it as a gag.
It's possible. It's
Or
possible.
maybe there was an S smart and somebody threatened to sue, so they had to change it. So,
what's your take on the music use and how effective it is there, Pixel? I mean, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Deep Purple or not. The older viewers certainly are.
I'm not, but
Deep
I
Purple's one of the
mean, I
greatest bands
did
of all
enjoy
time.
it was there.
Okay, it's definitely 80s music.
Like I said, even if you don't enjoy this music, the fact you're watching Ash getting on, it kind of like, yeah, I like it more because like he starts singing it in the car, and even after he sees the dead, he's like, come on, he's looking around.
Yeah, he's walking at space trucking. Come on. Well, here's the thing. I thought it was in this episode here that, for episode 1 we're talking about before we go into episode 2, but there's a second song that they play, and most people don't know this unless they're hardcore fans. Ted Nugent, as a solo artist, actually, had a band in the late 60s. Actually, he's had a few bands, but the one that he had is the owner of this next song, and it's the Amboy Dukes, and they've got some great psychedelic rock stuff. And Ted Nugent, I know a lot of people find him very polarizing for lots of reasons, because of his hunting lifestyle, because of his conservative libertarian views and all that.
But back then, don't care, man.
The guy can flat out shred on a guitar.
Yeah.
I've loved him since the 70s. But here's the thing. The Amboy Dukes have got some great psychedelic rock, some great stuff. And then here they've got Journey to the Center of Your Mind, which is where he's tripping. I think this is when he has the flashback with the prostitute he had when he was trying to seduce her by reading from the book, which is what started this whole thing off. So again, it ties everything together in a short period of time because it's only like a 40-minute episode. But yeah, Deep Purple and Amboy Dukes, I'm like, God, you almost really can't get better than this too. And it's great. It's just great music, and it's done at the right time, and it's just enough. So absolutely fantastic. Call of the Wild is a great song by Amboy Dukes. There's some others. If you don't know, spend some time going down the rabbit hole, checking out Amboy Dukes, with Ted Nugent, and of course Deep Purple. Even though they've had several singers, David Coverdale, who went on to Whitesnake and other things, was a singer at some point in there. Glenn Hughes, just phenomenal group, phenomenal. That being said, Pixel, this is your first screening of this. I've seen this before, and I believe the doctor has as well too. So for episode 1, was there anything that popped out to you that you just really, really noticed and went, I really like that, besides the music and just the goofiness? I mean, was there something particular about the film or the characters or what? Give us your thoughts, sir.
There's one scene towards the end. It's in the trailer, and it's whenever he pulls the curtain, they stare at the chainsaw hand, pulls it again. There's the neighbor as a deadite ready to attack. But in a few moments later, after he gets knocked out and Pablo kicks the chainsaw and it syncs up perfectly, which is kind of stupid. But when the way Kelly looks at him, he's like, wow, that was just so, it was a complete 180 from before.
She's a little wet there, I think, too. She definitely got those big eyes on there, too. She sees what this stud muffin can do, because she kicked his ass earlier when he was trying to put the moves on her.
Yep. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And at the end, how are you feeling? Groovy, just the perfect way to cap it off right there. That was a
lot of times I think it's how you start and how you finish too. You start off bad, you got to have a strong finish, but starting off good with a good hook like they did, like I was saying, you just getting teased by Ash being in there, but you get the two characters that you're going, okay, how much are they going to be in here? And a part of you goes, oh my God, is Bruce Campbell so old he can't do the role? He's not going to have enough screen time? You don't really know until you watch it. And thankfully, I would just say this, everybody's working out well, and I don't think anybody's not hateable, at least at this point to me. The only side thing to it is with all these stuff going on and dying, that you get this detective that's starting to get pulled into it. So they cut away for it a little bit between some of the downtime or whatever. So she doesn't know what's going on.
Amanda Fisher.
Yep. But overall, it's a great way, if you don't know anything about Ash versus the Evil Dead or even know what we're talking about. If you watch season 1, episode 1 of this, I think you get hooked into it. So here's the thing. Like you said, Pixel, great way to end on a hook. It's like a 40-minute episode. The next episodes are only about like 25 to 30 minutes, but they're just long enough where there's no fluff. You get your comedy moments. You get some great little scenes. You get a little bit of a breakup with the B plot with the detectives, and it's good enough. And I will say this: it looks fantastic. It looks exactly like Sam Raimi because he did write this. He was involved in everything. So that brings us into episode 2 of Ash versus Evil Dead, and it's called Bait. So we don't know if you're watching this for the very first time anything more than the fact that you got this old guy that had stuff happen to him 30 years earlier, which you get a few clips of real quick. And, you get a silly doll fight in episode 1, which we kind of skipped over a little bit because there's always silly kind of doll type fights that happen in the movies, but here in the TV show, they give you that. Well, in the second episode, I think it's a little less silly and a little more, I think, truer to what Ash, in the Evil Dead movies are. So you get Pablo, you get Ash, trying to work together because Kelly, you see her on her phone and it's like her mom who's dead, the father's like, I'm going to say Skype calling, but it's some sort of FaceTime kind of call, live call. And he says, oh my God, she's here. And she's like, who? And he's like, it's your mom. And he turns the camera so you can see it. And her mom comes in and she's like, holy crap. So the beauty of all this is there's no real swerves when it comes to Ash because he's not really a smart guy, and he's kind of a reactionary guy, and he's just so full of himself. It's really fun to watch him kind of bumble and stumble his way through it. So this whole episode is that way, I think.
I kind of like how it starts off in the second episode because remember they're fleeing from the town and stuff because of destruction and all crap, storm, and after he kills the old lady in the trailer and he flees and then so that Amanda Fisher shows up and she's like, and sort of sketch of the drawing. And he's like, and I love how even this key little thing is like, one of the neighbors is like, yeah, he's even dumber in real life, or looks like in real life. The notes on the paper.
And the women he would bring around, those whores. Did you hear what I said? The whores.
Like I said, it's like not even the main cast. It's like those little side characters that just make me laugh the whole time. Well, I mean,
again, it's another example of showing somebody on TV what's going on and having other characters talk about it that build it up. It's great. It's a beautiful way to do it. And you're right. 1 or 2 lines.
Kelly's mom coming because she's been dead this whole entire time. Was revealed in this episode, and Kelly's like, "He's my mom though." I was like, and Ash is like, "She's a deadite." He's like, "That's my mom." He's like, and he's. I love he's like, what's your game? And he just starts to interrogate. He's like, dude, it's my mom.
Yeah, when that entire dinner scene was
I love to watch. I love it. He's like, Ash, be nice. Hey, I'll be nice enough to the point or not.
And finally, whenever he punched her in punched her in the face and she fell to the floor, and everybody's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" She turns around, reveals that she's a deadite. Ash says, "Thank God, I was feeling like a real dick there for a minute."
However, what is noticeable about that scene is, if you notice when Pablo and him are talking as they're trying to go to her house, they're having a conversation. And of course, the way it's set up now, you've got Pablo kind of, like I say, idolizing him a little bit, but having this spiritual thing to him because I don't know if it's said, but I assume he's Mexican because he talks about, shamans and stuff. He could be Indian, I suppose. We'll find out, I guess, more specifically. Well, but he makes the comment that, when he was talking about the Deadites, he said, yeah, good, he says, hey, I can hardly get it up anymore unless I get a smash to the face. He goes, that usually gets it going. And that was kind of foreshadowing that what was going to happen eventually after several minutes, in the dinner table scene. And just before that, being in the home as him and Pablo break in and with the plan, and the mother's just standing there really nice and polite. It's crafty writing that on the second view I went, Oh, I see that. Just to throw away a little commentary, just to move dialogue along, as they're in one of those little transition scenes, is actually pretty good because we all know that the mom's gonna probably be a deadite, but they drag it out for a while. We don't really know about it, and it does a really great job of where you can kind of stretch out a little bit of tension. So in here, instead of having like a killer doll or the deadites really coming at you horrifically, it's, well, we see how they can actually do something different and be animated in a loved person's form, which you get the explanation for why they do it. So yeah, it works out well by not being as repetitive as the first episode. It's a different look on what deadites are and what they can do.
Yeah, he's actually Pablo's Honduran. And I love like everybody keeps calling him different names. They just insult them. It's all it's so racist every single time. Ash talks to him, he says something racist to him. It's like, yeah. He's like, you're a Mexican. Like, this is your people here. He's like, dude, I'm from Honduras.
You were from Jersey.
It's like.
But what did we notice differently in this episode from episode 1? What stood out to you, Doctor? Anything in particular?
Like I said, you're seeing Ash. He's like, I'm smarter than everybody else. I've been through this before. I'm an expert. Just sit back, kids, and watch. Watch it. And like, because they go to because Kelly had left. She was already with their mom and her, and they want. I love it because like Pablo, and he's like. So okay, we're here to save you, and she's like, oh my Lord, why are you covered in blood? He's got the broken bottles hand. He's like, oh, what the heck? It's like like Pleasantville in here. It's like everyone's dressed up nice. Like I said, each episode has its own unique music in here. This one, I forget what the song was in the second one, but like I said, they're all pretty much as good. One's not better than the other one. But I'll say this, so I did like the fact that he did punch the mom in the head. And I love how he comes in with the chainsaw and everything. He kicks the door down. He's got this episode is I love it. I love the whole show. I really enjoy watching the repeat, because usually when I watch a show, I don't want to watch it again. This, even though it's been a while since I watched it again, still I love this show because the way it is, the humor in this, it's like I don't care. I'm gonna do what I want, and I love that mentality. I wish more shows with this. Apparently, Hollywood has become too neutered, But
yeah.
like I said, the only downfall with the show is that they put it on Stars, and you had to pay to watch it. You had to have a Star subscription. So, and even I remember Ashley Williams, Bruce Campbell saying please don't his things please don't pirate this. Go watch it, and buy Stars and stuff. I'm thinking dude, you're in a pirate thing, you might as well put it on regular TV if you want more people to watch,
Well, I think it's on Netflix right now currently.
Now it is, but I'm saying when it was live though, it came out every Friday or something. Every Sunday it goes on. Because I remember, so I watched this or I watched Walking Dead. So, and I gotta say, at the time, this was better than the whole Negan saga when it came out.
I think the main difference between the two episodes boils down to where Ash is. Because in the first episode, he is that lovable loser, like I said before. But at the end, that's when he turned back into the action hero. And it sticks through. In here, he's still the action hero. And that's the real difference. They didn't have to have the setup to get him back with the chainsaw. He was the hero in this episode. And that's the main difference.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. So the whole thing with comedy, horror, and action is that, to me, like I say, if it's supposed to be horrific, you're supposed to be scared. And that being said, when somebody turns into the deadite or a deadite, let's say, it's done really well. But there's a certain type of lighting and wind sort of style and dark skies and set pieces. When I say low budget, I don't mean it looks cheap, but there's a certain style that if you go back and watch the movies and then you watch this, you instantly recognize it. And I think Sam Raimi even did a Spider-Man movie or two. So that may, without being a big fan of Spider-Man or knowing the movies that well, it's hard for me to say, but I would imagine it has some similar type things to it. But the sets are usually lighting-wise a little bit darker. Not as bright and colorful as some other ones.
Oh, I forgot. Also, the mom was a Deadite, stabs her Kelly's dad in that face with the fork.
Yeah, with the fork. No, she doesn't. She stabs her husband's head into a fork because she holds the fork on the table. Just a slight difference there. Yeah, it's there's usually a brutal thing like that gets you shocked, but it's so over the top you laugh at it. It's not.
And at the end of this, like, he's like, he put the crosses. He's like, no, he's like, Ash, you idiot. I'm Jewish, right? He's like, oh. Put the crosses up. It's like,
that would have been good to know. You should have said something.
Yeah.
Well, one note I'll say as I go off for my final thoughts here for this episode so far is that, okay, like I say, I think what you said, Pixel, was a great call about this being a bit more action oriented as far as where Ash's head is at, because Ash really didn't want to deal with two young people, but now Pablo and Kelly have kind of proved themselves to him, and they have personal interests, both of them, to want to be with Ash, you taking the fight to him. And Pablo's the one that basically is, the hype man in his corner saying, hey, no, Hefe, we need to take the fight to him. And Kelly's like, well, my family's dead, I got nothing to do. And she turns kind of bitter and pissy, which is good because she's very strong that way. And to me, like I said, you get all the comedy, horror, action type elements that you want. And here, the detective scene was kind of interesting because she's investigating everybody, and there's a hand that was dismembered left over with a bunch of leaves on it, but when you look at it, it's got like a finger and it looks like it's in a gun shape pointing towards something, and she looks and she sees the card that Ash has because he's trying to take the Necronomicon to the bookstore to get it interpreted so he can figure out how to undo what he did with one of his whores. And so that's kind of why they're trying to leave, despite the fact that they're being chased. So they're being pulled in that direction. And now you got a reason for them to form this unholy alliance, this trio. And it's pretty cool. But here's the thing. The music was fantastic, and it ends that well, too, because they play more Deep Purple. Highway Star. Oh my God, a great, incredible rockin' tune. Yep. And I think in this episode, at the end, they play some Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Greg died a few years ago, but my God, a fantastic, awesome band. Emerson, Lake and Palmer was just fantastic. To me, they're just hitting a home run after home run with the way they've structured each of these episodes, and then the choice of musics that they've played in here. And you said it right, driving around and in your car, getting all hyped up, listening to music while they're talking. That's the perfect thing. So, Doctor, what are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts is that if I remember correctly, this show, as it continues each episode, each song relates to the episode.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Which really helps out a lot with the show too. And like I said, like I hold this show and Supernatural up probably around the same area above every other show that's been made today. And I'll probably get flack for this. Oh, I love this. I love this. I'm like, I know people like watching Linda Carter run around, but at the end of the day, it's just Linda Carter. You can watch it with no sound on. It's no value to me. You're just watching her run when the boobs bounce. It's like might as well watch Baywatch if you want that. But no, this show is like I said, it's like Supernatural, but with balls. It's like they actually show the gore. They show what's up. If you imagine if Supernatural wasn't on CW, was on a regular cable station, and they showed the gore, they showed the blood and all that stuff. People, like, wow. Is it? I don't understand. I'm looking back. Supernatural does have stuff. They have blood splats and stuff of this, but nothing is like this. So. Nothing is scary.
Over the top, gushy kind of stuff.
And I love Sam Raimi how he brings the stuff back from the movies. The whole blood scenes and all that stuff he brought from Evil Dead 2 eventually will make its way back in the show later in the seasons. But like I said, this is Sam Raimi. Evil Dead is authentic. Bruce Campbell, I believe, also he directed some of the episodes as well. They bring in everybody from the actual movie except for Bobby Joe and the other guy and stuff, and some of the girls. Like I said, this show is like if you were a fan, it gives you what the fan wants. It doesn't hold back. It's not like, well, we should do this with my fan. No, it's after. Like, you know what? If someone gets offended by this, they're not a fan. And if they're not a fan, we don't care. We're not here to please you. We're here to please the people who actually bought the movies, who love the franchise, who love Bruce Campbell, who love the actors on here. We're here to please them. Not the people who are, you know what? I've never seen this, but I'm going to hate it because it's misogynist. That's what I love about this show. And I wish more shows would be like this. So that's my final thoughts. My final thoughts is basically, if you don't like the show, shut up, move on. So what? I don't care. And credit to Ingleton with so what.
Well, you brought up a good point too here, in that when the show came on, it wasn't it's 10 episodes. And again, the first episode is about 40, 45 minutes. The rest are no more than a half hour. So it actually is very binge worthy, but I think they dropped them one a week as opposed to just dropping the entire set of 10. And I like that. And I think the ratings may reflect, if you go back and look at them, the fact that it starts off good, a little bit of a drop off, but then it kind of gains and then finishes with its highest ratings. And so I think that's a point that, we have talked about with Angling Team from My Life Comics, Adult and the Authenticator and some others, including us here in channel right now, about, is there value in making it weekly and periodic like it used to be, where you can have the coffee, talked about it, the work, you can stand around a water cooler talk and everything. But I don't know, it's interesting, and we'll see how these goes. And I'm trying to still keep in mind, even though this, unlike the Boys and Buffy, where Buffy's a new watch for me, for Pixel, this is a new watch. So I'm going to try to watch what I say as far as future stuff there too, which brings us back, certainly not last, but Professor Pixel. Your final thoughts, sir?
I feel like there's a scene in the first episode after the killer doll attacks Ash and Pablo beats it down. Where, yeah, I didn't expect the blood, I have to say, but I don't know why a doll had blood, but that's besides the point. There's a scene wherever he's explaining to Pablo basically what happened, where they cut to the side and they use the boxes to show all the past events. And because I love the movie so much, I was just filled with a nostalgia that helped it propel the series all that much forward when it already had started off fantastic. So I'm really excited to keep going.
That's cool. No, and you're right. It's just enough of a tease where he says, Pablo, and because he plays it as a straight dumbass, he's like, Pablo, I'm going to tell you something I haven't told anybody in 30 years. 30 years ago, I was in a blah, blah, blah. And so he's giving you the quick 30-second, 1 minute kind of backlog. So if you haven't seen it, there you go. And yes, those were actual clips from the movies. So to your point, I think it's a great one. Again, if you haven't seen this and you're just watching it, you can without missing anything. But it teases you, hey, you can go back and watch the movies that go back quite some time. So I think that's a good point.
I'll say this: the fact that the doll had blood in it actually adds more to the series. More than possession. No, this one actually animates it, and makes it more gory. Like I said, the show is about we're gonna have gore. We're gonna have so much blood, you're not gonna know what to do with it. And I don't think it's dumb. I think it's actually smart because we've seen stuff we've seen before. We've seen puppets, but you've never seen a puppet get killed and see blood pop out of it, or.
But that's because puppets don't have blood in them. They're not organic.
But as I said, the Necronomicon is so evil when it brings itself in. It makes things actually flesh animate. It's just a possession. Because remember, the Deadites have to possess. Usually, they have to possess something that's that's a human. That's how they get there. They take over. But in this series, it's basically they're changing it where basically they can possess anything. So I mean, I would love to see it like, oh crap, here comes an army of candlesticks, and and make up a Beauty and the Beast reference. That would have been hilarious.
Well, I think it's interesting. Like I say, that so much time had passed, and so you always wonder if an actor is able to pull off an older role, because physically you're older. It doesn't mean mentally you can or physically you can't. But I think Bruce Campbell's one of those guys that he's a good-looking man. He's aged well. He's got the character down, and he shows you enough early on where it's like, okay, for the people like myself that are longtime fans that have watched really almost everything he's been in, all the B movies, the TV shows. When you get this, you're like, okay, you feel comforted that you're getting the real deal. And so my concern watching it was that the two characters, that I had never seen before. They weren't recognizable to me. Pablo, I haven't seen anything before, and I know she was on some late show doing some camera girl type shtick or something. Not quite sure what that was all about, but to me, it's just
holy crap. He was great. He was 57 years old when the series started.
Yeah. It's pretty good. It's the Peter Jackson Dead Alive kind of level of violence with buckets and gallons of blood. So yeah. Look, guys, if you're listening to it and you're just tuning in, Ash versus Evil Dead season 1, episodes 1 and 2, great fun watch. It's just a lot of fun. It's well paced. It's everything you want. It's Sam Raimi. There's no decline at all in terms of quality for anything from start to finish so far for the 2 episodes. So Pixel, I'm glad for you as a first watch. You've enjoyed it. Can't wait till next week when we, as the Value Shop boys, go ahead and decide to discuss episodes 3 and 4, which I'm really looking forward to. I almost want to do it now. It's so good, but we're going to go ahead and call it a night. We're getting ready to go on here at 8 o'clock with Angling Team from I Love Comics, and we'll see what kind of stuff we have to talk about. Last week was Shia LaBeouf and Brownface and the bodies of the male actor in Hollywood. That being said, guys, there's a lot of dead bodies in this. Go watch it. Go have a lot of fun. So for the Doctor, for Professor Pixel, of course, for Dalton the Authenticator, who's a part of this as well. We had some technical difficulties. I'm looking forward to having him on next week as well. I'd like to say thanks for listening. As always, stay extreme. And of course, good night.